everyone, welcome back to Maritime Explained. Today we are going to be discussing the factors that influence port construction. The factors are the major purpose of the harbour, the sustainability of the expected cargo volumes, whether or not the harbour is a sheltered site, the size of the area to be developed for the harbour, the depth and land of that harbour, the services that they can provide, as well as transport access, finance, and port services. When considering building a port or a harbour, there are certain questions that you need to ask yourself to make sure that that particular harbour is sustainable. So for example, is there a certain commodity that's going to be exported out of that region that needs a specialized port? Okay, the first factor is the major purpose of that harbour. Now, why are we building that harbour? Is there commodity that's expected to be exported in that particular region? Is there a booming industry that requires a specialized harbour to service that type of export? Is there a certain import coming in? And are we in need of another port? We also need to ask ourselves what type of harbour or port is it going to be able to service containers? Is it going to be able to service break bulk? Is it going to be a specialized port? Or is it going to be a multi-purpose port? We also need to consider what type of ships are going to call that port and what size of ships are going to call at that port. Will we be able to accommodate Cape-size vessels, or will the port only be able to accommodate a handy-size vessel, for example? So these are the types of questions one may need to ask themselves when considering building a port. The second point is the sustainability of the expected cargo. You have Richards Bay Coal Terminal. The reason why they have Richards Bay Coal Terminal is because there is a large amount of coal being exported out of that particular region. Therefore, it makes sense to have a coal terminal. One thing that you have to note, if you are building a harbour because you are expecting to export cargo, you have to consider, is it a large amount of cargo? Is this going to be going on for a certain period? Is it going to be going on for years? Or is it going to be just one shipment? Obviously, it wouldn't be feasible and it would not make sense for us to create or build a harbour only to service one vessel that comes in every 3 months. Okay, we need to make sure that there's a constant flow of cargo in that particular port in order for that port to sustain themselves. The third point is a sheltered site for a harbour. Okay, a ship needs to work in calm conditions, therefore a harbour needs to be constructed to give protection. Certain construction in ports, like breakwater, protects the vessels whilst in port. Size of the area where we want to build the harbour. Is there enough land space in that area for us to create storage sites, a quayside? Is there enough water space for ships, large vessels to come in? And can we accommodate should we want to expand the harbour? The next point is depth of water. This point is self-explanatory, and this basically means that the ships that we are expecting to come into the port, can we accommodate their draft? Is the water deep enough? The next factor is flat land. We need to make sure that we have enough space to store cargo. For example, if you are storing coal needs a large surface area because it is stored in stockpiles. We also have space for sheds if we have weather sensitive cargo, and we need to also make sure that there's enough space or there's flat land for road access as well as rail access. The next point is services and labor. Do we have enough space in that port to create offices? Do we have enough space for port equipment? Do we have enough space for complex cargoes? Do we have enough space for buildings? Electronic system. Will this particular harbour have access to electricity? Will we have a problem with accessing electricity? Those are the factors you need to consider, as well as labor. You require highly skilled and highly qualified engineers, as well as other skilled laborers to make sure that the port is running smoothly. All right, transport access. So in order for us to move cargo in and out of the port, we need to make sure that we have adequate rail and road access to the main region. Okay, it is very important for us to have railway yards to make sure that we can move cargo in and out of that particular port very quickly. Finance. Do we actually have enough money to build the port? So to build and maintain as well as operate a harbor is extremely expensive. In a lot of countries, the port is run by the state. So for example, Transnet is run by our government, but there are certain harbors that are privately owned. They need to make sure that they have enough funding to sustain themselves in the long run. For state-owned ports, it is easy to get subsidies because it comes directly from the state. Our last factor is services. A harbor needs a large amount of ancillary services. This basically means you need access to services like pilotage, tug services, bunkering, chandling services, waste disposal services, ship repair and engineering services. All of these services depend on how large the port is. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this video was helpful, like and comment.